One parent would always say something contradictory to the other, and since I was caught in the middle, I didn't know who the hell was telling the truth. However, traveling to places I've never been before and learning their truths is what makes me confident about going home and telling the story of what I've learned. Last week, while we were still in Maine, we drove up to downtown Portland to go meet up with some people from this organization called Preble Street. When we got to the place and walked into a small conference room, all I thought was, great, another boring, tireless lecture. After sitting through the lecture, antsy as ever, the floor opened up for questions. It wasn't until the last minute when I anxiously rose my hand and was called on. At that moment, all the mental traffic in my head collided and piled up on itself because I was afraid that my question would raise controversy. I directed my question towards Jim and Jeff, two former homeless men. I asked, "What is home if you're homeless?" It seemed like the most stupid question I could ever ask, but I wanted to know. Jim, with his majestic beard of wisdom, replied, "Home was wherever I was welcome." I've never been homeless physically, but feeling unwelcome in a place is what drove me out of my mom's house, where I lived for 11 years. It makes me appreciate that I now have a home that I'm not only sheltered by, but one I also feel more for in just a year than I felt somewhere else for 11 years. The idea of Jim creating home for himself by associating it with being welcome was so simple, but one that held an immense amount of power. Jim confirmed for me that home is not just a location. It's your feelings that can make anywhere home. Homesickness was the shadow that walked beside me the entire trip, and only disappeared when I closed my eyes at night and was able to subconsciously go home for a while. I found, ironically, that it was most evident whenever we had to end phone time, which was meant to connect us to home. Homesickness was a form of resistance, which I was disconnecting myself from the group. However, it was through that negative energy that made me appreciate this troop and the people here more than I ever thought I would have. Through my disconnectedness, I was able to see that you're never truly alone. We're a group of penguins huddled together as we move slowly across the thin ice that is this trip. Because I could have broken that ice at any time and dragged everyone down with me, but instead of letting me crash down, everyone just brought themselves closer to me and supported me until I could stand on my own again. This past week, I was able to hold back my tears as I handed over my phone for the last time. But while walking up to the tents to put away our packs, I wanted to scream, because the thought of having to hang up on my loved ones again had become too much to bear. It wasn't until I reached my tent and started packing up my day pack and emptying my thoughts to my tent mate, Maria, that I realized my anger and frustration was short-sighted. "Think of it this way," she said. "You're gonna go home, have your phone, and see everyone you love, but you may never get this opportunity again." 5 weeks gave me a ton of time to appreciate who and what I already have, but it was also too short of a time to come to know some worthy lifelong friends that I have a strong possibility of never seeing again, or at least for a very long time, because of the distance between us all. I would have never recognized that simple fact to such an emotional extent alone if I didn't have Maria, the rest of my friends, and the staff to help me open my eyes to the beautiful relationships I'd established right in front of me. In Boston, we had a workshop with a man by the alias Toussaint, and in Maine, we had one with a storyteller, Elise. Toussaint emphasized having a voice as being word, sound, power, and Elise emphasized it as being louder. Toussaint and Elise influenced me to think strongly about what I want to take home. Then when I finally get there, make it known by articulating it to a few people. Then finally, being able to put whatever I've taken with me into action. I feel like I have a tie to the homeless community in my city, and I also want to be sustainable in my own life and encourage others in my life to do the same. So, to connect the two, I want to bring composting to my household and my squash program because I know that there are homeless people without food. So by composting, we can limit the waste of food and use the compost for the soil in my squash program's garden or the plot in my front yard, where we can grow fresh produce, which we can donate to a homeless shelter or soup kitchen, so no one will have to go hungry. Also, to be louder in my own life, I'll start being sustainable in little ways, like making sure to recycle paper and plastic instead of throwing it away, buying wooden instead of mechanical pencils for school, and trying to take shorter showers, limiting the waste of water. Being at Elisa's house and telling a story I haven't told many people, taught me that some of the best stories are the most vulnerable and challenging. I hope as life goes on and my story continues being written, I can learn to stand up and be vocal about what I want changed in my community, just as I did when I got up in front of my peers and shared what became a part of my life story. I've lived in quite a few places the past few weeks, between Knoll Farm, Burlington Co-housing, the Green Mountains, in a 3-person tent, the First Baptist Church in Jamaica Plains, the Quaker Meeting House, the Wayfinder School, and even the van. But what I failed to realize until now, the most important place I've been, where I learned what was most important to me, is the Field Academy. I lived with the Field Academy, and that alone has connected everything else I've learned. Home is not just a location, it's a feeling. And wherever we've been and wherever we are, I feel at home with the Field Academy. Thank you.